The ground came up to meet me before I even knew I was falling. The ground came up to meet me before I even knew I was falling. One moment I was standing at the edge of Crescent Lake, watching the afternoon sun shatter into 1,000 golden pieces across the water, and the next, nothing. Not darkness exactly, but an absence so complete it felt like the universe had simply pressed pause on everything I was supposed to be. The park had been my idea of a reset. 3 weeks since the divorce papers landed on my kitchen counter. 3 weeks since Maya packed the last of her lavender-scented things into boxes and closed the door behind her without so much as a dramatic goodbye. No tears, no final argument, just the soft, definitive click of a latch that somehow managed to be louder than any scream she had ever given me. I was 34 years old, recently unemployed, and sitting on a park bench with the specific kind of loneliness that doesn't announce itself dramatically. It just settles in like fog, like carbon monoxide, odorless and everywhere. That morning I hadn't eaten. I'd forgotten again. I did that now, forgot things that used to be automatic. Eating, sleeping at reasonable hours, checking my phone for something other than the silence where her name used to appear. I remember standing up from the bench. I remember thinking the sky looked unfairly beautiful for a Wednesday. I remember the slight sway in my vision, the way the trees on the far bank seemed to tilt toward me like they were curious. My knees gave the briefest warning, a hollow, empty feeling, like the structural integrity of my legs had simply been revoked. And then the ground. I woke up to the sensation of something cool and deliberate moving at my wrist. My first thought in those strange, cotton-wrapped seconds of returning consciousness was that I was late for something important, that specific panic you get from oversleeping. Then I registered the grass against my cheek, the distant laughter of children, the smell of earth, and something faintly floral. Then I felt it again, fingers at my wrist. My eyes opened. The sky above me was impossibly blue. A woman was kneeling beside me, her dark hair falling forward over one shoulder as she bent over my arm. Her brow was creased in concentration, her lips pressed together in the careful expression of someone who knows exactly what they're doing. She was unclasping my watch, her fingers working the buckle with quiet, practiced efficiency. For exactly 3 seconds, I was certain I was being robbed. "What are you?" My voice came out rusted, barely recognizable. She didn't flinch, didn't look guilty. She looked up at me with the steady calm of someone who had been waiting for me to wake up and said, "Hold still. Your pulse is irregular and this band is too tight. You've been out for almost 4 minutes." I stared at her. She wasn't a thief. She was focused, clinical almost, except for the faint crease of worry between her eyebrows that she was clearly trying to suppress. She slid the watch free and set it on the grass beside me with a gentle precision that felt oddly respectful, like she was handling something important. "Can you tell me your name?" she asked. "Elliot," I said. My tongue felt thick. "Elliot Marsh." "Elliot," she said it like she was confirming a fact. "I'm Dr. Kara Voss. I was running the trail when I saw you fall. Have you eaten today?" "A doctor, of course," I almost laughed. "Define today," I said. Something shifted in her expression, not pity, exactly, more like recognition. The way people look when they understand the shape of a problem even before they know its specifics. "Okay," she said simply, and reached into the small running pack at her hip. She produced a foil-wrapped energy bar with the efficiency of someone who kept them there precisely because the world was unpredictable. She held it out to me. "Eat this before you try to sit up." I took it. My hands were shaking slightly, which was embarrassing in a distant, observational way. "You don't have to stay," I said, because it seemed like the thing a person was supposed to say. "I know," she replied, and sat back on her heels and waited anyway. I ate the bar in 4 bites. It tasted like chocolate and chalk, and inexplicably, like the first real thing that had happened to me in 3 weeks. She watched the color come back into my face with the attentiveness of someone taking mental notes. When I finally pushed myself upright, she was ready, one hand steady at my arm, not hovering or fussing, just present, solid. Slowly, she said, "You really are a doctor." "Emergency medicine," she said. "I don't know how to turn it off." I sat up fully, and the world tilted once and then settled. Crescent Lake glittered in front of us, indifferent and beautiful. A couple walked by on the path, too absorbed in their own conversation to notice the man sitting in the grass with grass stains on his jeans and a woman crouched beside him like she'd pulled him back from somewhere. Which, in a way, she had. "What's with the watch?" I asked. I picked it up from the grass. It was my father's, a battered, old-fashioned thing with a leather band that had been replaced 3 times but always matched the original. I wore it every day. I wore it the same way some people carry a stone in their pocket. "Circulation," she said. "The band was too tight. It happens with older leather. It can constrict when someone's blood pressure drops." She paused. "It's a nice watch." It was my father's. She looked at it, looked at me. Something about the way she let the silence sit between us without trying to fill it told me she understood that sentence carried more weight than it appeared to. "He passed?" she asked quietly. 2 years ago." I turned the watch over in my hands. "He used to say time was a gentleman. It always gives you a moment before it leaves." She was quiet for a beat. "That's a beautiful thing to say." "He was a beautiful person." I said it without thinking, and then felt the rawness of it in my throat, the way grief has of arriving sideways. I cleared my throat, fastened the watch back on my wrist, 1 notch looser, as she'd shown me without being asked. "You should see someone today," she said. "A GP, get your heart checked. Vasovagal syncope is usually benign, but paired with not eating and what sounds like significant stress." She stopped. "I'm sorry, I'm not your doctor." "No," I said, "but you showed up when I needed one." She looked slightly caught off guard by that. It was the first time since I'd opened my eyes that her composure had shifted into something less composed, something more human. She stood, brushed the grass from her leggings, and retrieved her running pack, settled it back on her shoulders with the practiced ease of someone who logged serious miles. She hesitated. "Elliot Marsh," she said, like she was deciding something. "Dr. Voss," I said back. "Kara," a small correction, a small offering. She reached into the front pocket of her pack and produced a business card. The kind doctors keep for exactly the professional situations this clearly wasn't, and held it out to me. "In case you have questions, medical questions," she added, with a precision that was maybe slightly deliberate. I took it, of course. She gave me one last look, the kind that takes a full inventory, and then she turned and started back toward the trail. A few steps, easy and unhurried. I watched her go. The lake was still doing its thing with the light. The children were still laughing somewhere behind the tree line. The world was carrying on with its familiar, lovely indifference. But something had shifted slightly on its axis. I looked down at the business card in my hand, at my father's watch on my wrist, at the empty foil wrapper of an energy bar that had, in its small way, pulled me back into the present tense. "Time," my father used to say, "it always gives you a moment." I thought maybe this had been mine.